Kia ora and good afternoon everyone. I'm joined by the new Minister for Rail, Winston Peters, to update you on the steps the government is taking to ensure New Zealand has a safe, reliable and commercially viable ferry service. Let me start by congratulating Mr Peters on his appointment. I'm delighted to have his wisdom and experience brought to bear on this project. I've enjoyed working with you on the way forward for this project over the recent months. As you know, this time last year, Cabinet declined a KiwiRail request to contribute almost an additional $1.5 billion to its project to replace the Inter-Islander ferry fleet. This was because of the blowout in the cost of the project due to the landside costs associated with servicing the larger vessels KiwiRail had contracted to buy. Between 2018 and the end of last year, the total cost of the project, including associated landside infrastructure, quadrupled from $775 million to more than $3 billion. And given the project's track record, ministers did not have confidence there would not be further blowouts. In fact, advice provided to the previous government was that, based on international benchmarking, the cost of the project could approach $4 billion. Following the government's decision to decline additional funding, KiwiRail cancelled its contract to buy the new vessels, and since then the government has taken advice from a ministerial advisory group, officials and multiple stakeholders, and we have taken soundings in the shipbuilding market. Today, we are announcing that the government is establishing a new company within a value for money envelope to procure 2 new ferries. This decision will ensure New Zealand has a safe, reliable and resilient service to move people and freight between the North and South Islands. The expected cost of the project is commercially confidential until procurement and negotiations for the associated landside infrastructure have been completed. However, a funding envelope has been established by Cabinet, and the costs are expected to be much less than would have been the case with Project IREX, even once break fees are included. It is important to note that the cost of the associated landside cannot be divorced from the cost of buying the ferries. There is no point in buying a new car if you've got nowhere to park it. And like it or not, paying for parking is part of the deal. In recent days, some have naively suggested that all that should be considered is the cost of the ships, with no attention paid to the cost of supporting infrastructure to berth them. So to that naive suggestion, I'd simply ask, how do people think passengers and freight were going to disembark the mega ferries? Rail-enabled rafts, perhaps? Project costs must be considered in their totality, lest $4 billion mistakes are repeated. The new company established to procure the ferries will be a limited liability company listed in Schedule 4A of the Public Finance Act 1989. The shareholding ministers of the company will be the Minister for Rail and the Ministers of Finance and Transport. The company will have 2 roles. The first will be to undertake the procurement process for new ferries and to report back to ministers for final decisions. The second will be to support officials to work with ports, KiwiRail and other stakeholders to ensure landside development planning is sufficiently advanced for Cabinet to make final decisions on ferry procurement with confidence. And those processes are expected to conclude in March. One of the government's aims is to leverage existing infrastructure to the maximum extent possible. The exact costs of the landside developments won't be known until the project is finalised, but we are confident, based on our work to date, that they can be delivered for significantly less than for Project IREX. This is partly because the ferries will be smaller, but also because the ports will not be gold-plated. To ensure the best possible solution is arrived at, the private sector is being invited to put forward alternative proposals for a ferry service during the first stage of the procurement process up till March. Any alternative proposals received will be assessed, along with the results of the first stage of the procurement process in March, after which final decisions on next steps will be taken. Whatever the preferred solution, rail freight will continue to be able to be transported between the North and South Islands.